Welcome into episode 530 of the Skate Podcast. I am Brian DeFelice, joined by Bridget Prue and Scott McLaughlin. Bridget and Scott, the Boston Bruins got a 6-3 win over the Philadelphia Flyers last night at the Garden. They now finished the month of January 11-2-1 and 9-0-0 on home ice. Pretty impressive stuff when you consider where this team was a month ago, trying to get out of a 6-game losing streak. Actually, it would have been a month ago today or tomorrow against Edmonton. So what a turnaround this last month has been for the Bruins.
Yeah, and part of that losing streak was on home ice. I think it was it 4 in a row going into Christmas break on home ice. And now with a dominant month at the Garden, now they're right back to being one of the best teams in the NHL on home ice. Which is always a point of pride, right? Like teams always want to be good on home ice and be a place that, teams don't want to be coming into, don't want to look and see, trip to Boston on the schedule. So that's good. Obviously they've been able to establish that. And now they're done on home ice before the Olympic break. Now it's just the two Florida games, including the stadium series.
Which Scott is heading down for. And hopefully the weather's better than here.
It's gonna be better. It's gonna be 40 degrees warmer, but that means it's only gonna be in the mid 40s in Florida. So it'll be good weather for the game. They're not gonna have to worry about ice melting or getting kind of crappy or anything like that. So and NHL, it looks like things can always change in 2 days, but looks like the NHL really lucked out weather-wise for the game. It should be pretty good conditions.
No rain or anything either?
It didn't look like it. Now, that can change quickly in Florida, just like it can here. But as of now, it looks clear.
See, the only problem is now you can't dress like Jimmy Buffett to the game.
That's true. Yeah, that's a major downside.
Yeah, that's what I was looking forward to that. But I won't be going because I have 2 broadcasts this weekend, and I wouldn't have made it down there in time. But have fun out there, Scott, and we'll see if the Bruins can finish out because obviously Brian, you already gave the record in January, and they don't have any more games in January because all of a sudden February's already here. But hopefully they finish out this part before the Olympic break with 2 more wins, I guess, but also without getting any more injuries, which can get us into our opening shifts.
Yeah, and the injuries too is
that's not opening shifts. There we go.
and the injuries too. It's coming to guys that don't necessarily have the luxury of the Olympic break because they are scheduled to be Olympians. Now we don't know to the extent of which. Now, Bridget, who wanted to get into the injuries? Was it you or Scott?
It was me, but Scott wanted to go first. So.
Okay.
Well, I mean, if you want to do the injuries,
let's stick with the injuries first, Bridget. Okay. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So Elias Lindholm doesn't play on Thursday. He didn't practice in the morning, right, Scott? You were at morning practice to go talk to Poitras.
Correct.
He didn't practice. He was with team doctors getting tested during throughout the day Thursday. Marco Sturm originally said that they would have results by the end of the day Thursday. When he was asked after the game, he didn't have any update. Said they're still waiting on the results. And Pavel Zacha left the game with an injury in the second period, didn't play the third period. Scott and I went back, I should say mostly Scott, I'll give Scott credit, but we both watched it. Scott went back in the Nesson broadcast and tried to find where it looked like Zacha got hurt. And so we watched the last shift, and he kind of went down awkwardly, but then it didn't look like a whole lot. So Scott kept going back further. And there was a higher hit that he took that didn't end up getting called a penalty or anything. But how many shifts before was it, Scott, that he got?
It was a couple before. It was like 5 or 6 minutes of game action before his final shift. He was along the boards, and it was Nick Delorier who kind of came at, didn't hit him from behind, but came at an angle kind of from behind. So Zacha wasn't fully braced. And quite frankly, it was a dirty hit. Like Delorier elevated and went shoulder into head and like pinned him against the glass. So unfortunately your mind goes to head injury and concussion. So, hopefully it's not, or if it is, hopefully it's a very mild one. But it certainly looks like that was probably the play that did the damage, because there was nothing really obvious on his last shift. So I'm guessing maybe it was something that had happened earlier and just kind of popped up or got worse or lingered.
I feel like it obviously there could be a concussion spotter involved, but I feel like he didn't act like he didn't show the signs of it. So maybe it was him on his own saying, yeah, I don't feel great. But yeah, unfortunately, both of the guys are centers and important parts of your team. And unfortunately for them as well, they really need to get healthy quickly because they're both supposed to go participate in the Olympics for their country. Zacha for the Czech Republic and Elias Lindholm for Sweden. So those guys are, for them, it's not, oh, we'll just rest over the break. Like, that's such a huge opportunity for two guys who've never played in the Olympics before, that are supposed to go over there. So hopefully for both of them, they're okay. But because of two injuries to centers, it looks like Matt Poitras probably going to stay here and make that trip to Florida.
Yeah, and not to devalue what Elias Lindholm would mean to Sweden, but Zacha for the Czechs is a bigger loss because their roster isn't as deep. So, I mean, you would imagine that he's among their top 4 forwards, right? I mean, you have Pasternak, Necas, Hurdle, and Zacha. Am I missing anybody major up front?
Not on forward, I don't think.
Yeah, I haven't gone through it, so
off the top of my head, and again, forgive me if I am, but either way, he's a big he would be a big loss for the Czechs, right? They're counting on his availability. So, and I'm sure Sweden is for Elias Lindholm too. They named him to the roster for a reason, but he's just probably a little bit further on their depth chart.
Yeah, the problem for Sweden, if Elias Lindholm is down, is they were already down a center with Leo Carlsson missing. So those are going to be whatever lines they were on. Those were going to be 2 of Sweden's 4 centers. So Carlson going down probably bumped Elias Lindholm up in the lineup already. Now, True. If he goes down, now you're down 2 of your what you thought were going to be your 4 centers to start the tournament.
It's a good point. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yep. And Hughes for the U.S. Hughes got hurt again.
Jack Hughes?
Jack Hughes, yeah.
Oh, news to me. Is this like a long-term thing?
Well, he just left the game yesterday, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't see if there's any update this morning, but yeah, he got banged up Thursday night as well.
I mean, Caulfield and Robertson aren't centers, and I don't even know if Jack Hughes would be used as a center in these games. He probably would be, but I think the good news is for the U.S. If you do have an injury up front, you do have 60 goals right now between Robertson and Caulfield. Last I checked, yeah. So, but Hughes, the way I know he's a little bit fragile out there, and he's not the biggest player or most physical, but I mean, his speed and skill is definitely would be useful for them, but I guess we'll follow that too.
He could dominate against everyone other than maybe Canada. I would still have my doubts, but sure. He can certainly help you get to that game. And I'll go into my open shift because speaking of centers, the Bruins have a young one who's playing some really terrific hockey right now, and that's Fraser Minten, who gets elevated in the lineup with Elias Lindholm out to start the game. At morning skate, he was on the top line with Pasternak and Geeky. At some point during the day, Marco Sturm changed his mind and decided to put him on the second line with Mittelstadt and Arvidsson instead, and Zacha got bumped up to the top line to start the game before he got hurt. But Fraser Minten just had an awesome game and clicked right away with Mittelstadt and Arvidsson, who obviously already had chemistry together. That line scored 3 of the Bruins' first 4 goals. Minten picks up a secondary assist on the first one, which is scored by Arvidsson. Then he scores the 3rd goal, takes a pass from Mittelstadt, goes in, beats Samuel Ersson 5-hole. And then Bruins' 4th goal, Minten makes a great pass through to Andrew Peeke on the back door. Peeke gets robbed, but Casey Mittelstadt's right there to put in the rebound. So, Minten now, again, just continues to flash more offense than I think any of us expected from him this season. He's now has 16 points in the last 15 games. And if you stretch it back even a little further than that, he started this season. I wrote about this on weei.com, so shameless plug there. But he started the season with 6 points in the first 24 games of the season. Since then, he has 23 points in 31 games, which is, that's getting to be a pretty big sample. That's a 61 point pace over 82 games. And he's doing this as a 21-year-old rookie, mostly in a third line role. Obviously, there have been times he's moved up or he's had Pasternak on his line. But again, like I've mentioned this a few times now, it is very fair to start to dream bigger when it comes to Minten, because he was built as he's going to be a really good third line center. He's already that. So like there's no reason to put any ceiling on what he can become. And Tanner Jeannot said that. Jeannot talked after the game and said like he's a player. We don't know what his ceiling is yet. We don't know what he's going to become because he just keeps getting better and better every day.
Yeah, somebody asked Minten in the scrum, do you think you could be a top 6 guy or a top line guy? And he said, I just go wherever they tell me to go, which is kind of what he's been saying to anyone who talks about, where he is in the lineup, because he's like, I just want to be in the NHL. But yeah, he had an awesome game. He's been fun to watch. And he's just getting better and better. And I have another thing I want to say about him, but I'll save it till after Brian finishes his opening shift.
Yeah, and he's on pace for 43 points, by the way. And I believe he's played in every single game this year. So Scott mentioned the 82 game point pace he's on had you kind of omitted the first, what you call it, third of the season or whatever. But yeah, I think it's when you consider how mature he plays and how defensively reliable he is, and he's already, well worth the young asset that you got in the Carlo trade. But man, if you got a top 6 center in him and a 50 to 60 point scorer, I mean, again, I guess he's on pace for 43 points. And if this confidence continues to grow, then the production may start to surmount even more so. So anyway, yeah, I think he's a future letter wear for the Bruins. I just quote tweeted you, Scott, online because you posted that video that Bridget was talking about. And yeah, I think he said something like, I just want to play in the NHL. I mean, how do you hear that and not just be like, what an answer? Like, that is the answer right there. Anyway, my opening shift right now, the Bruins, they are 9th in the NHL in points with 67. Yet they are 5th in their division in points. Isn't that wild? I mean, have you guys seen since this new, well, I guess it doesn't really matter about the playoff realignment, but have you seen one division boast 5 teams in the top 10 this late into a season? I'd be hard pressed to find it. I'm sure maybe it's happened, but that's quite the competition in the Atlantic. Fortunately for Boston, they've got a good stranglehold on wild card 2, and they're tied in points with Montreal and Buffalo, who are 4th and 3rd in the division, and they're 2 points back of Detroit. So the Bruins are in striking distance of the top 3, right? It's so funny that they could be 9th in the NHL in points, but 5th in their division. Again, they're tied, but you know what I mean.
And it's insane because the Sabres beat the Kings and the Canadiens blew out the Avs 7-3. So they didn't gain any ground on them. The Lightning won. Did Toronto end up winning? I'm scrolling down.
No,
the Red Wings lost. Panthers lost in regulation to the Blues. And then Toronto lost to the Kraken. So at least, the Panthers in Toronto lose. They're behind you, so they're not gaining ground on you that way. You're actually creating more separation, but you're not getting any closer to the Canadiens or Tampa or any of that. So
yeah, it's great. Like if you had said before the season the Atlantic's gonna have 5 of the top 10 teams and none of them are gonna be the Florida Panthers, like,
or the Maple Leafs,
that'd be crazy. Yeah, like that'd be crazy. And yet you do, because Florida has a bad loss in St. Louis, like you are gaining you're gaining separation, but from the teams below you. Like the Bruins are now 8 points clear of 9th place. Now, Florida still has games in hand. So, but you got to win games in hand, right? Like, yeah, they could pick up 4 points if they win both of those games in hand, or they could drop them and they're still, 6 to 8 points out. So, yeah, it is crazy. And like, if that were any other team other than Florida behind you, I think you'd look at that and be like, wow, the Eastern Conference playoff field actually feels like it's kind of coming into focus. Like, it actually feels like there's kind of 8 teams pulling away. But because the Panthers are one of those teams chasing, I don't think anyone's feeling safe. Like, that's just until they're dead, buried, and completely out of it. I don't think anyone's gonna be foolish enough to write them off. But the rest of the teams in that chasing field, like, I would have zero confidence in any of them. I mean, Toronto, I think they're in trouble. Like, I think they're gonna end up selling off pieces. Ottawa, has just been way too inconsistent. Like, on down the line, New Jersey, I don't think is very good. Washington's an interesting one. Like, I feel like I still think that's a team that's better than their record, but they're not doing it. Like, they've had a tough stretch. So,
I mean, Philly. Look at Philly. Like, to your point, Scott. Like, last night, the Bruins entered action 6 up on Florida, who was the direct team chasing them for the last playoff spot. And then you had 5 teams with 8 points. The top of that list was Philly, and you just had a 4-point swing on them. So now you're 10 up on them. And which is another reason why last night was kind of a sneaky big win for the Bruins, because you look at it, it's Philly. Well, if you take away Florida, Philly was right behind Florida for chasing Boston. So I mean, and it's crazy.
Them in Toronto, and so yeah, it was a big win, and it's just been a huge month for them. So maybe, I mean, it is a completely different conversation than what we'd be having if they were 500 in this month, and or if they hit another losing streak at some point in January. But that's just not what happened. And yeah, if they're healthy, they keep going at this pace, which I don't know about you guys, but would you say the record was 9-2 in January? That's hard to replicate.
No, it was 11-1. It was
9-0. Okay.
9-0 at home.
Yeah. I mean, can they keep going like that? If so, then they're not going to be a wild card team, right? Like, you have to think one of the or multiple of those teams isn't going to keep going on that pace of winning 8 out of 10 for the rest of the season. So, well, somebody's going to fall out.
Like I said, I mean, you're a wild card too, but you're tied with Buffalo, who's third in your division in points. So, I mean, to your point, Bridge, like, if you win your next game and any one of those teams slips up, well, now you're in the top 3 in your division, and you're only 2 points behind Detroit, who's 2 in your division. You're 2 points away from having home ice in a playoff series. If if the playoffs were to start, after a Bruins win and a Detroit loss or whatever. So it's the different amount of playoff matchups that we can see right now are anything but set in stone.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just like looking at some of those teams like in the Bruins division of these 5, and trying to figure out like who might be most likely to fall off. Like, let's say Florida does go on a run and knocks off someone else. And, my eyes go to Montreal, who obviously you just had a big win over. 5-4-1 in their last 10, kind of a little bit middling. And interesting thing there is they just fired their goalie coach. That's been a weakness for that team, which on the one hand, it's like, boy, if goaltending is a weakness, like, hard to see a team sticking around. On the other, it's like, what if this switch of goaltending coaches gets better results from Montembeault, Dobesh, Fowler, whoever they're throwing in there?
Why did they end up sending Fowler back down? Because I hadn't been really on top of that, but I know that he's not with the with the NHL team anymore. So I don't really know. Did he do something to deserve to get sent back down? Like,
I don't know. I would assume they probably just want wanting to get more seasoning. Maybe just didn't think he was ready to stick. But yeah, it's like what if that switch fixes their goaltending? Then all of a sudden, what's been their biggest weakness maybe isn't a weakness anymore. So, yeah, it's fast. This is going to be it's going to be a fascinating stretch run. But like in the here and now, these next 2 games for the Bruins are massive, right? Like first you get to test yourself against unquestionably one of the best teams in the NHL in Tampa. And I think the best team in the East. Marco Sturm called them the best team in the East. I guess you can make a case for Carolina, but for me, it's Tampa. And then all the pageantry around it of the outdoor game and the pirate theme and the treasure map and all this stuff. But like below all that, like just a big game and a big test. And then a huge one against Florida. Again, we're talking about like that's the team that's chasing you that, maybe more than any other, you got to hold off. Well, here you go, right? Like second time you've seen them this year. But second time you've seen both of these teams, and the first time was way early in the season during that early 6-game losing streak. You lost to both of them as part of it. And remember that Florida game, that was Marchand's return, and the Bruins really should have won that game, or at least should have gotten it to overtime. Gave up 2 goals late in regulation to end up with coming away at 0 points. But that they were right there with them, and instead it obviously slipped away.
Yeah, the Tampa game too was it was back and forth, but if I remember correctly, the Bruins, they came back in that game quite a bit. And
yeah, I think it was like 4. I think they're down like 4-1 and got to 4-3 or something.
They made a game of it. Pastrnak had that signature moment against Kucherov where he had that huge hit on him, had the save on the empty net. So it was, those are entertaining games, but they're early in the year, to your point, Scott, where none of the teams really had their footing. Sasha Barkov, by the way, is at least back skating with some other injured Florida Panthers players. Now, I don't care how many points back they are of Boston right now. To the point you were making earlier, Scott, you've won 2 cups in a row. You've gone to 3 straight. You've earned that. You've earned that respect of I'm not counting them out until it's officially over for them, right? So, 2 huge points or 2 huge games coming up for Boston. Then we've talked about it. Like they've, their 6 or 7 game winning streak earlier this year when they won 8 of 9, that was damage control for the 6-game losing streak they had. More recently, they went on a 6-game winning streak. That was kind of damage control from their December 6-game losing streak, right? And losing 7 of 8. Now they're 4-0-1 since Dallas snapped their 6-game winning streak. So now this is the first time where they can start to, reap the benefits of a win streak with some separation. And if you can go out there and beat Tampa in a signature game, and then, or at least beat Florida, who is directly behind you, right? That's huge going into the Olympic break where you come back and 25 games left, right? At that point. So yeah, I mean, I'm just blown away. I really am. I did not see this coming this time last month. I can't emphasize that enough. And that's not because I was trying to be, pessimistic about it. I mean, it's one of those things where it's, well, based on how they're playing, using our eyes and our ears, watching them, and then using basic and advanced metrics to back up what we're watching, it was one of those situations where give me a reason why outside of blind optimism and just black and yellow glasses, give me a reason why they were going to go on an 11-2-1 stretch in January. There was no good reason to think that this was going to happen. So the fact that it has, they deserve a ton of credit. I did not see it coming. I don't know about you guys, but I know I had that famous take. You gotta go 3-1-1 on the road back in December, whenever it was, to salvage the season. They didn't do that, but again, if you can go on an 11-2-1 run over the next 14, okay, then that's the great equalizer, I suppose.
Yeah. No, it's been an interesting month. It's been a good month of January, which is going to make for an interesting trade deadline, right? That's what it to me is just shaping up for a much more entertaining conversation come March, where we're talking about, are they buyers or sell? Like it will be not as depressing as last year's trade deadline conversation, right? It seems like, at least at this point. Because once they get back from break, what was it, Scott? Just like 7 games before the deadline after break or something? It's
only
under
4.
10. It's only 4?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's right there. It really is right there. Once we'll forget about it for a little bit during the Olympics, but
guys, look at this is from Eduardo and China on X. So I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, but I just saw this retweeted by Jimmy Murphy. Actually, look at these records in the Atlantic Division in the last stretches of time. Tampa Bay is 16-1-1 in their last 18. Okay, Buffalo is 23-1 in their last 24 games. The Buffalo Sabres have won 20 of the last 24 games. Okay. Obviously, Boston's 12-2-1 in their last 15, dating back to New Year's Eve. And then Detroit is 8-2-2 in their last 12, which is a smaller stretch, but still, I mean, and this all goes with what we were talking about earlier: 5 teams in the Atlantic in the top 10 in the NHL. It's no wonder with records like this, just crazy, absolutely crazy.
Yeah. Who do they have head to head next of that group? Besides not the Florida teams, but when we come back, they have Flyers again.
Well, they've played Buffalo 3 times, so they probably play them once more, and they've played Detroit 3 times, so they probably play them once more.
Yeah, got mid-March. It's you play the Canadiens and Detroit in the same week, and then right after that, Toronto.
Buffalo.
Who knows if they'll even be in it at that point?
Coming out of
Florida, you play Tampa again twice in April, and Florida once in April.
Yep.
But no, nothing head to head against Buffalo. I didn't see, at least.
The one in March. Yeah, March 25th. Yeah, I mean, coming out of break, they're out of division for a while. For like, they basically go like 3 weeks without a divisional game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm stoked for. Listen, if the Bruins
we need a new nickname for the division. Remember early in the season, I think was it one of our listeners or someone on Twitter coined it the Mid Atlantic. It's not the Mid Atlantic anymore. We got to come up. What's I don't know, like the Mad Atlantic.
The bottoms up division, because all the basement teams are at the top now. Well, not Tampa, but I mean Buffalo and Detroit. What's their combined playoff drought right now? Is it like 20 years combined? I mean, Buffalo. Last time Buffalo made the playoffs,
84 years.
Buffalo hasn't made the playoffs since the 2000. Was it the year the Bruins won the Cup or the following year? It may have been the following year. They may have played Philly. But whatever, regardless if the Bruins make the playoffs or not this year, obviously I want the Bruins to make the playoffs. And right now it's the best of both worlds because all these fan bases make the playoffs. But outside of what happens with the Bruins, I gotta be honest, I'm very, very happy for the Buffalo Sabres fan base. Same with Detroit's. At least Detroit's, it's like, okay, yeah, you guys have had to endure like a decade playoff drought. That sucks. Truly wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Not even Montreal, because like the league's better when they're good. But at least Detroit has, their 4 or 5 cups since like 1997. But Buffalo, they've never had the cup, and their fan base is so passionate. I remember like in like the 2000s, you would go to a Bruins game against the Sabres in Boston, and they would take over the balcony, and they were very passionate fans. I think they've been the highest hockey market in terms of television ratings, just generally speaking, for like the longest time. So I'm really happy for those fans. They've endured a ton, and it wasn't looking good for them again this year. And then, like I said, they've won 20 of their last 24. It's like, I'm happy for that fan base, truly.
Yeah, like by the way, I saw, so we were talking about some of the, there were some good quotes coming out of Bruins post game, and including Fraser Minten saying like, asked if he sees himself as a top 6 forward, and he says, I just want to play in the NHL, put me wherever, I don't care. Jeannot saying, we don't even know what Minten's ceiling is. I saw Alex Tuck last night after the Sabres win. He was asked a question about like enduring all these years of like hope and, just hoping that things turn around. And now like you're actually in it and you're on a stretch like this. And Alex Tuck said like, yeah, we're not hoping anymore. Like basically like they're there. And then he said, he's like, our goal, and he's like, we're not aiming just to make the playoffs either. Our goal is to win a Stanley Cup. So, and that's a guy that even just a couple months ago when the Sabres were going through a tough stretch was all over the trade blog. Like name was out there in a bunch of rumors.
They had a GM change this year in season.
Yeah. Like that, it is actually pretty impressive. Like what they've pulled out of now. I've said for a long time, my number one rule, never trust the Sabres. So I'm still not breaking that. I'm not quite there yet, but
right.
They are playing some really good hockey right now.
Yeah, at least they're giving the fans something to cheer for right now. I mean, they were close. I believe the year the Bruins set the regular season record, 22-23 season. I'm pretty sure Buffalo they were there for a long time that year. Their offense was clicking. I feel like they may have fallen out of the playoff picture maybe like the last month or so, maybe, or they may have been in it towards the end. But I remember that they were
I think it was like the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, they were competitive most of the year, but anyway, okay, so this Bruins Flyers game, you mentioned Casey Middlestat off the top, and then Bridget mentioned the trade deadline. Listen, I still feel like Pavel Zacha and Casey Middlestat, I don't think they're going anywhere right now. I think you're going to bide their time on Middlestat, and Zacha, I think it's going to get an extension at some point. Arvidsson obviously starts the scoring, so he remains the interesting one to me. Him and Andrew Peeke personally. I very much understand not wanting to disrupt the room, especially if the team's feeling good and they're en route to a playoff berth potentially, and then all of a sudden, a couple of your buddies go out the door. I understand that could be annoying to the room. It's also a business, and they're pending UFAs. I think they're relatively replaceable with some internal options right now, even. And so I think that's an interesting one to follow. Those two, I can see both sides of the aisle there. But Casey Middlestat, I don't think unless somebody wows Boston, I don't think he's going anywhere, at least this year. And Scott, you said it in recent episodes, like, I don't think he should, because based on his play, he's played really well, especially since converting to wing. And last night's 3-point performance is the latest example.
Yeah, he was awesome on Thursday night. Him and Minten, each 3-point games. That whole line was +3. As I said, they were on for 3 goals, 4 none against. Arvidsson is, to me, like if the trade deadline were tomorrow, I'm not trading Arvidsson. Like unless I'm blown away, like unless it's like a first round pick where it's like, well, all right, we can't really turn that down, but like he's playing good hockey for you, and he's in your top 6, and like he's sticking there. He's 5-on-5 scoring this season on the Bruins. Number 1's Pastrnak, obviously 36 points. Number 2, Morgan Geekie, 26 5-on-5 points. Tied for 3rd is Fraser Minten and Victor Arvidsson, each at 21. And 5th is Casey Middlestat at 20. Like, yeah, it's possible you might have an internal option who could plug in and be pretty good. But, like, you're also risking what's been breaking up, or potentially ruining what's been a really good second line. And, like, I just don't think the Bruins would do that right now. I think they feel like, look at the hockey we're playing. Like, why can't we make some noise in the playoffs? Like we might still think that's a little bit of a long shot, but they're playing as good a hockey as like pretty much anyone in the Eastern Conference right now. Again, like maybe just take Tampa out of it as like kind of their own thing at the top. But we've seen plenty of these seasons where, I guess don't bother because there's one team at the top. And it's like, Oh, you mean like the Lightning in 2019 who got swept in the first round,
or the Bruins?
Bruins in 2023 who lost in the first round? Like we've been down this road. We've seen this play out. Like you don't just like assume you're not going to have a chance because there's one team at the top of the conference who looks, much better than you on paper. Like peak is, to me that's still like maybe a little different. Now look, he was also really good Thursday night, by the way. He had 2 assists and was a +3. I thought him and Zadorov together were really good, but for the most part, I haven't been a huge fan of Peak's season. Like I guess I'd be more open to making a move there, but again, there is still that risk of just depleting depth, which has been a strength for you, right? Like you've been able to overcome injuries both up front and on defense, and you're probably gonna have more between now and the end of the season. So, I don't. Yeah, I'm not ruling anything out. Like I'll listen to offers, but
yeah,
I would have a pretty hard time seeing the Bruins sell really at all right now.
I think in January you've convinced yourself that there's a chance that you could go on a run in the playoffs, and that you've convinced yourself you're not sellers, right? Because think about it, if there's only 4 games between the end of this, pre-Olympic break, or I should say post-Olympic break, there's only 4 games. As long as nobody's like really important gets injured during the Olympics, I think it's not those 4 games probably don't change your mind too much. We're not going to want to overreact to 4 games right after an Olympic break where maybe the team's just a little bit rusty, so it's not like a good sample size of which direction you're heading. So even if you do lose a few of those, like, is that really representative of what you've been doing? I think that the obvious answer is, well, we think that January really shows what direction we should be going, which means I don't think they're going to be sellers. So that means I think that Arvidsson doesn't get moved because he's clearly an important part. And I just don't think they move anyone out just based off of this month of January. I think that it was too solid for them to have convinced themselves otherwise. And it's a gamble, but I don't think they're willing to make that kind of a decision to be like, we'll see what we can. Like, we'll deplete a little bit of our depth and hope for the best. Like, I just don't really think they're in that position. I don't think they will be at that point either. But all of that being said, yeah, they're still in the second wild card spot. So it's not that far fetched to, usually if they were in a second wild card spot, we'd be like, it's probably not their year. But the circumstances are a little bit weird. And yeah, they got Arvidsson for a 5th rounder. He's already above and beyond what you got him for. Like, the value that he had is higher than that. So yeah, you'd be able to sell him for more than that. But if it's not a 1st round pick, you don't do it. And so I think they're buyers.
So I agree with you guys. I don't think they should move Arvidsson outside of a 1st round offer. But I can't sit here and say that there's not going to be some team out west or anywhere that's going to say, hey, Don, like, we could use them. Like, we'll give you a 1st round pick for him. And I don't think that if the Bruins were to trade him for a 1st round pick, I don't view that as straight selling. Like, I don't think the Bruins are going to be quote unquote sellers this year. I think they're going to try to make deals that make sense, whether that's buying or selling. And that could include keeping Arvidsson because no one's offering you anything more than a 2nd rounder, or selling Arvidsson because someone offers you a 1st round pick for a guy who's in his 30s that's on an expiring contract that, to Bridget's point, you got for a 5th round pick. So it's not so much selling, it's optimizing the asset, right? I think, I'm not going to put you guys on the spot, but I think if somebody offered the Bruins, whether they're in a playoff spot or not, a 1st round pick for Victor Arvidsson, I think I know what the answer on this panel would be. So that's kind of why I bring it up. And if you guys feel differently, then, you can say so. I'm trading Victor Arvidsson for a 1st round draft pick. I don't care what spot the Bruins are in the standings. If it's a second rounder or later, I'm not disrupting the room. But if you can get a first round draft pick, unless it's like a 2030 pick, is it in 2029 and 2030? I'm all set. But if it's a first round pick next year or the year after, I think you have to make that deal. But I'm not saying that's going to be an offer for them.
Yeah, I think you probably do, but I would want, but say that happens, like, I would want them to be aggressive in trying to go find a top 6 winger with term.
Sure.
And like make a bigger move, right? Like, cause like that's also a path I'm okay with. If you're like, hey, yeah, we're gonna sell Victor Arvidsson because we can get something for him and we don't really think he's part of our plans. Well, not that I'm saying like you have to go out and replace him with another top 6 wing, but you can probably be a little bit more aggressive in that market. Like if you're adding now another asset to your chest, like go look for, that player who's part of your 5-year plan and not just 1 or 2-year plan. So, and same thing on defense. Like if they can find a right shot defense, which obviously we know they were looking for, they were in on Rasmus Anderson right up till the end. If something like that comes along, then yeah, of course, like then turn around and trade away Andrew Peak. Like that makes sense. So, I'm still not renting. I'm not in that market. It's not the year for that.
No.
But where they are, like, I think I'm okay with being more aggressive on players with term and like seeing if there's something here that helps you both now and for years moving forward.
Yeah, like I don't think they should go into the trade deadline with the label of we're buying or we're selling. Like we're buyers or I don't think it's that black and white for Boston. I think it's on a case by case basis. Let's see what makes sense. Let's see what offers come our way. Let's see what makes sense, right? Like I agree with you guys. The Bruins, the way that they played this year, they deserve that vote of confidence from management to not just put the seller stamp on them. But if, as I said, if somebody offers you a first round pick for Victor Arvidsson, it's like, okay, we still have to do what's best for business. And like, I think the players would get over it, like, okay, we got to like now. And I know Ray Croft used to say this to you guys too. Players could give 2 shits about draft picks. If Victor Arvidsson were to get traded for a first round pick, we'd all be sitting there saying that's a good optimization of an asset. Good job, Sweeney. The room would not feel that way. They'd be like, that sucks. He's one of the boys. But then again, that's why players play, managers manage, and fans speculate. But
it is something like you have to take into account though, because like I know sometimes like people laugh about like chemistry, vibes, whatever, but like organizations value that and strive to have that. Like if anyone's ever been around a team that doesn't have chemistry and has negative vibes, like it sucks. It sucks for everyone, and like it's hard to pull yourself out of that. This team has really good vibes right now. Like you can tell, like they like legitimately just love each other. Like they're having fun coming to the rink every day, and they're also playing winning hockey right now. And I do think it would be tough, like if they trade away Arvidsson and Peak and don't add anything, and like that's all they do, like that is a pretty tough sell to the room, and like you do risk kind of, ruining what's been a pretty good thing, and maybe it still ends up being good business for you long term, but in the here and now, like it would be tough to swallow.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair.
I want to talk about it in comparison to last year too, because this is something that Marco Sturm was asked about in the post game. Like, are you a little bit surprised, like what you ended up like with because of where they were last year and the way that they finished? They finished with 33 wins last year. They have 32 wins right now. So they've already guaranteed themselves that they're not going to be as bad as last year's team, right? Like they've already pretty much met that floor, and they have plenty of time to keep adding wins. So, and he made a joke, and he said, the power play is better than I thought, and Steve Spott's a big credit to that. So not just him changing things, but Steve Spott working on the power play hard. He said his main focus has been to be a good 5-on-5 team, and he thinks that they are. And he joked and he said, you guys all said we didn't have anyone that was going to be able to score, and where was our scoring going to come from? And we've been scoring just fine. So basically, he said there was a lot of variables, there was a lot of uncertainty, but this team obviously has performed better than last year's team, with an on-paper roster this year that started off not as good as the roster on paper was at the beginning of last year. So, coaching change helps. Buy-in helps. Apparently, the vibes help. But yeah, like just think about it compared to last year. It's kind of, when I heard the stat of 32 wins versus 33 wins last year, I was like, that's crazy. I hadn't even thought of it, because I feel like we almost put last year in the rearview mirror over the last month because there wasn't a whole lot of need to talk about it. It felt like, because they're heading the other direction. Like, we're looking forward at this point, not backwards, but it is interesting to compare to last year.
Yeah, it is. And right now, the Bruins are 9th in the NHL, or sorry, 8th in the NHL in goals for per game. And I just had it up, but their goal differential, they're 9th. Yeah, so they're 9th in the league in goal differential. They're 8th in the NHL in goals for per game, and they're a top 5 power play. Again, you want to talk about didn't see it coming, did not see that coming. And yeah, just all you can do is tip your cap to them, right?
It comes because of performance jumps as well, right? Like as a team as a whole, yes, 5-on-5 power play, like as a unit, it's all looked better. But when you go and you look at the individuals that made a jump from last season, like Fraser Minten has been a big help. He wasn't with the team until after the trade deadline last year. Victor Arvidsson is up on his production compared to previous year, and you didn't have him last year. So like, he was maybe an upgrade that you had to add to your lineup in the off season because of what you did trade away. Middlestad has done better than you thought. Like, and these are 3 guys that weren't part of this team to start last season. So and then you talk about, like, goaltending has been a big one too. Swayman doing better. Korpisalo looks good too. So I think Zadorov, you could argue, better, having a better season. McAvoy, when he's been healthy, has been great, which he was great last year too, but right around, like a week or two from now, early mid-February was when he got injured last year. And
yeah, I would say he wasn't great last year.
He was great. You're right. Actually, in the beginning, we had some criticism. I think that there were parts of the season where he started to look better. I mean, 4 Nations, he looked amazing, but then.
Yeah, unfortunately, it didn't count for the Bruins though.
No.
But yeah, Bridget, to the points here. Oh, sorry, Scott, go ahead.
No, I'll let you guys wrap this point up. I have there was something from the Bruins released, like kind of like the behind the B clip of the post game. There are a couple of things here I wanted to touch on, but we can wrap this up first.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just wanted to piggyback off Bridget's point about like other players stepping up, and Middlestad and Arvidsson and Minten, and I mean, even Husnudinov is a player who is 6th on the Bruins in 5-on-5 scoring. But what's important about these players doing so is that Pavel Zacha and Elias Lindholm are 9th and 11th on the team in 5-on-5 scoring. Now they're 3rd and 4th on the team in overall scoring, but the fact that these players that Bridget was mentioning have stepped up, especially at 5-on-5, it's kind of allowed for a bit of a buffer for now. And I'm kind of torn when I bring up that discrepancy between Lindholm and Zacha's overall scoring versus their 5-on-5, because overall scoring matters, obviously. Like, special teams matters, your power play matters. They're a huge part of the power play, and they're a huge part of what's been a top 5 power play, and that's a huge part of the team's success. So I don't mean to discredit their overall scoring. It's just worth noting that, where their scoring is coming from versus other parts of their game. So the fact that your top 2 centers, who, as we've talked about earlier this episode, are currently out of the lineup right now, are 9th and 11th on the team in 5-on-5 scoring. I think the fact that the players that Bridget mentioned, that they've stepped up, it's allowed for that to be workable right now. But again, when you're clicking at a top 5 power play pace and they're part of that, again, it all goes together, right? It's all part of the meal, but it's just interesting, I guess, to use a word.
I feel bad that I left off Morgan Geekie from the list of people that I was naming because he's already almost at his goal in point total from last year, so he's gonna have another career year. So,
but speaking of Geekie, and Scott mentioned this earlier, and I said this online, but Pasternak and Geekie, they're 1 and 2 in overall scoring, and to Scott's point earlier, they're 1 and 2 in 5 and 5 scoring. Zaka Lindholm, they're 3rd and 4th in overall scoring, but 9th and 11th in 5 and 5. So it is worth mentioning that, like, okay, are you 3 and 4 of their top 5 offensive players, or are you not, but you're benefiting from, the power play, which again, they deserve credit for that. So I don't really know how I feel about it. It's just worth mentioning.
By the way, Pasternak's 8-game point streak came to an end in this one. The Bruins scored 6 goals. Pasternak was still a +3, but the point streak's over.
Ship him out.
Yep, all done, washed up. So I think the Bruins posted this like right before we started recording, so I'm gonna guess you guys probably didn't see it, but they posted the behind the, after a lot of wins, they post the post-game locker room clip of, Sturm says something, someone gets the belt and gives a little speech, whatever. So Sturm walks in and, says like, great effort, guys, great job. And make sure to highlight, he calls them the heavyweights, which obviously refers to your Chinots, Castellics, Corrales of the world, and says, you guys helped keep things calm. Which is a good sentiment in general. And I think there was kind of something to that strategy wise, because the Flyers had scratched like their heavyweights the night before. Hathaway, Delorier, maybe even someone else I'm forgetting, but like they scratched all those guys, and they've been a pretty lifeless team recently. Tocchet puts them back in for Thursday night and starts them, which right away my thinking was like, oh, he wants an early fight to try to get his team going. Well, Sturm countered by putting out 5 non-fighters to start, and I kind of thought that was like an effort to be like, nah, like we're better than you and we're not giving you what you want. Like we're not giving you that fight. And so then he highlights his heavyweights kind of keeping things calm, which seems like it was a point of emphasis. Like, don't let them turn the temperature up. But I also was thinking, I was like, but one of their heavyweights did run around and hit one of your guys on the head and knock him out of the game. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I don't know if like maybe Sturm just hadn't even seen Delorier's hit on Zaka yet, or didn't know that's what caused the injury. But it was sort of, it just kind of felt a little weird to me to like deliver that message when one of their heavyweights actually did injure one of your top guys in that game.
We think, right? We think that's when
it that's true. That's fair. Like maybe that wasn't the play. Maybe I'm just guessing and I'm wrong, but
maybe he has like a lower body injury and it's like we're like,
well, no, they set upper body.
Oh, did they? Yeah.
I mean, it probably was that hit, Scott. I'm just playing devil's advocate, but yeah.
But so that was just like struck me a little odd. But then what I liked was, so they didn't show the whole sequence. I don't know like how the order comes about, but or it must have been, I'm guessing Hampus Lindholm might have had the belt from last game, which I would have made sense, right? He was named to the Olympics and scored a goal. So I think he had the belt from last game that they give out for, it's not really like, it's not always necessarily player of the game, but it's like just someone whose effort they want to highlight. And he was pretty funny. He says like, he was like, yeah, like Marco said, thank you to heavyweights. You make it, you make it easy for a soft Swede like me, like playing into stereotype, which I actually like. I think is one of Hampus Lindholm's strong suits. Is like he can be like self-deprecating and pretty funny. But then obviously like he passes the belt on to Fraser Minten, highlights him as the player for that game, and says he's a rookie, but he looks like he's 35 out there. So So I thought that was pretty cool. And again, like we don't always see a lot of Hampus Lindholm's leadership because it's not as loud or as out there as some other guys. Like because he doesn't score as much, he doesn't talk to the media as much. And he's often like a little bit reserved with us, even when he does talk. But I thought that clip was kind of it sort of captured both. It was like gets his funny side, which I think is there, and him then giving like all this credit to a rookie in Fraser Minten.
Definitely. Yeah. Those behind the scenes clips are always good because sometimes you forget it's a game played by humans. And we were talking about the possibility of, if you get a first Robertson, do you move him? But chemistry is a thing, right? Even though
I miss chemistry.
I miss chemistry too. But it is a business, and these players do know that too. And so there's a fine line.
Wait, I did want to say something about Minten that I had thought during opening shifts, but I was going to hold off so that we could finish our opening shifts. But it was something that Sturm said about Minten after the game, and I want your thoughts on because it relates to the Jeannot comment of like we don't know what his ceiling is, because if you think about it, he's only 21. Sturm gave an answer of I asked him about like, is there any little details that you've seen him like incrementally get better at? But he actually answered it on like what he still thinks he needs to get better at. And he basically said that he's going to get better at faceoffs because we want him to be on the power play and the penalty kill, and we want him to take those important faceoffs. So like his role is going to continue to increase for the Bruins if he starts to get better at faceoffs. Like he's already on those things, but could he be a go-to guy on those things? Like, could he be a situational, we need a face-off, we're throwing him out there. Right now it's Cass like that they do that with for important situations. Not on special teams, but or I guess on the penalty kill, but not the power play.
And by the way, Bridget, just quickly before you go to your next point, it's not like Minten's bad on faceoffs. He's 48.3%, which I actually think is like really encouraging for a rookie, because you see a lot of young centers like down in like 42%, because veterans have all the tricks. Like it's tough for young guys to kind of get up to speed against guys who have been doing it for 5 to 10 years.
And there's the strength difference between a 21-year-old and a 29-year-old, right?
Which is where I was going, because Sturm basically was saying, these are the things he needs to get better at, but he's not a man yet. He's still a boy. He said, look at his face. He's still a boy. Like, as he gets stronger, which will just take, those extra reps in the weight room. And now that he's here, like, they have the best nutrition people. They have people who will, have him covered in every single aspect of trying to get stronger and get, in the perfect shape. So he said, as he gets stronger, which he's going to get stronger, he'll get faster naturally from getting stronger. He'll get better at the faceoffs from getting stronger. And just think about like what his game would look like if he just had that extra strength or size, right? He's not small. That's one of the reasons why he made the team, was because he's young, but he's physically able to handle the NHL and not be bumped around. So, but there's still room for growth in that area. Physically, because he could just keep getting bigger and stronger, and then what is he, right? Like that's the direction he's heading.
Yeah, absolutely. I think his ceiling has absolutely risen from what I think most everybody maybe thought it was, just because when the Bruins traded for him, you only know what analysts are saying, or who's this Fraser Minten, right? And but man, I mean, he's been impressive, and sometimes it's the little things that I pick up on at a young age for him, right? The maturity, the strength, the responsibility, the offense will come.
And it started to.
Yeah, and the last, I know that it's kind of a cheap, comparison here, because it's not fair to Fraser Minten, and I'm not calling him this generation's version of Patrice Bergeron. Patrice Bergeron's a Hall of Fame player. He's one of the best Bruins of all time. But in terms of just a young center iceman who comes into the league, now Bergeron actually started as a winger in 03-04, but you see a lot of the habits that made Bergeron so effective. His work ethic, his hockey IQ,
and maybe the personality is actually similar.
There's just Fraser Minten is going to be the next Fraser Minten, and that's all he should worry about being. But the fact that he has transferable attributes that you can see in a young player that you don't see in many kids his age is very encouraging for Boston. And he's been a great pickup for them. No other way to put it.
Yeah. Speaking of Bergeron, because we were talking about young players and faceoffs, I was just curious. I was like, well, was Bergeron great on faceoffs right away? Like, am I maybe misremembering? And so Hockey Reference actually doesn't even have faceoff stats that go back that far, but which is funny. But NHL.com does, and so yeah, his 18-year-old season, his rookie year, he did play a lot of wing, but still took just under 700 faceoffs and won 49.4%. So like he was just under 50 as a 18-year-old rookie, and then they had the lockout year, and then he comes back as a 20-year-old and took by far the most faceoffs on the team and won 54.7%. So it's like, oh yeah, okay. So by age 20, his second NHL season, he was already absolutely dominant on faceoffs.
But what did he do between those 2 years, those 2 seasons?
Yeah, he was down in the AHL.
A lot of those NHL players that were, that lockout season, a lot of those guys, they went down to the AHL because it was really one of the alternatives. And playing in the AHL back then, that put some hair in your chest, right? Like that's a tough league, a man's league. It still is relatively, but I mean, if you're a 19-year-old Patrice Bergeron and you're taking faceoffs, I would imagine all season down in Providence against those Grizzly Bears over there in the minor leagues, he probably benefited from that, like strength-wise and bearing down and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, anyway, Minten's a great story so far. I know we got to go soon.
Can we talk about Poitras for?
That's what I was gonna say. Just a few thoughts on Poitras. Yeah, how do you guys think he did?
He almost scored in the beginning, and then he just like got into like a fight at the end because who was it? That took him down. I think
it was Barkey.
Yeah,
Barkey, yeah. And then he somehow ends up on top of him at the end of it, and it was. I mean, he was a bit quiet in the middle. He had one noticeable shift when he was out there with Pastrnak, which is kind of what people talk about, like, oh, put him with Pastrnak. Like, he is obviously more noticeable when he's out there with guys like that. Yeah, I mean, he didn't get a lot of time. He had the second fewest minutes of the forwards besides, I'm going to subtract Zacha because of his injury. So he didn't get a lot of playing time, which is not surprising because, it's his first game of the year and he was a call-up. And but I mean, I think he sticks with the team because not just because he didn't play poorly, but they still have a need for center and even maybe more. Like, do we see another call-up if Zacha's not ready to go for these 2 games? So they're going to travel down to Florida. That they're going to need him to be there for that center fill-in, some depth there.
Yeah, I thought he was involved early. Helped create some chances. Was on the receiving end of a couple chances. One he's takes a pass kind of from behind the net and has a chance right on the doorstep. Couldn't quite beat Ersan, and then another. He's coming down through the right circle and fires a shot, glove save. So those are two pretty good scoring chances. And then, yeah, I would agree that his game probably got a little quieter as the game went on. And that's, one of the challenges, right? Like you're riding that adrenaline early and you're on your toes and you're involved and active. But then, can you keep it up through the whole game? So, yeah, I thought it was he didn't do anything to hurt himself. I do think, if he's gonna stick and like really make the most of this and stick longer term, probably has to turn up a notch or two. But solid first game.
I think that's fair. I wouldn't say he had a huge impact on play. I also wouldn't say he was a liability. I thought his details, all things considered, first game of the year in the NHL, probably battling some nerves, knowing that there's a lot of stakes on the line for him. I thought his details were fine. I don't think he was excellent in any one category, but I don't think he was a liability. I think the way you kind of said it is how I feel. I think it was, he didn't hurt himself. Okay. But going forward, now you got a big game against Tampa Bay coming up here, Stadium Series game, which, by the way, if the playoffs were to start today, I talked about the volatility of what the playoff matchups will be by the end of the year. But right now, if they were to start, Boston would be playing Tampa Bay. So, I think that I think players oftentimes, a second game in a call-up is never guaranteed. But if you do get that second game, I think there's a little bit more. There's more expectations now from the coaching staff. I think you get a little bit of a, I don't want to say a pass, but I think that coaches are understanding that, okay, that was Matt's first game of the year. He's probably feeling X, Y, and Z, catching up to speed. Now let's see what he does in game 2. Let's see what he does in game 3 if he gets those games. And it's going to be up to him to make the most of them.
Pretty cool game to get to play in, too. Get to go play in the outdoor game. So
that's true. Yeah.
Last thing I'll mention, people have probably been able to piece this together, but depending on when you're listening, we recorded before. The Bruins have an optional practice Friday at 11:30, and I think Sturm is talking potentially as early as 11:30, like before guys even go on the ice. So we're recording like an hour before that. So you may have, when you're listening to this, more updates than we do as we're recording.
Yep. And Scott's not going. He's gonna go get on a plane and head down to Florida.
Have a good time, Scott. Have fun.
Yep. And I'm gonna get ready to go broadcast the BCBU hockey game tonight on Essence. So I gotta get that plug in.
Please, Terriers, please.
Hey, either way, Bruins
just don't embarrass us. Just come on, like
Bruins fans have something.
A lot's forgiven if you rack up some wins over BC here. A lot of games with BC coming up.
Yeah, Beanpot coming up too Monday. So
hey, you know what else I think may have came out today? I have to double check, but there was a really cool documentary on Netflix. The Boys of 80, I think it was called. I think that's coming out today. If it hasn't already released, make sure to watch that, because that's gonna be. I saw the trailer; it looked amazing. There was some like very what's the word when like you take old footage or pictures and kind of like and make them look refurbished? Is that the word? Like refurbished footage? I don't know, but it was footage from 1980, but it was clearer. It was like, it wasn't like grainy or anything. Of like the Olympic Village and the games. I think this documentary is going to be really, really cool.
It's about the Olympic Miracle team, if people didn't know.
Right. So it's not like there's, if you go on YouTube, like there's Miracle documentaries, there's always been but like the footage is very grainy, right? It looks old. This is older footage, but it's been repurposed, and it looks like it's as good quality as it could be for footage taken from that time. So really looking forward to that. So watch that if you're interested too.
I think that might be what I watch on the flight. If I have good enough internet to get Netflix working, that might be what I have to watch.
And then when you land, you can put on BCBU. Plenty of Bruins prospects in that game.
There might be multiple times on this trip that I'm going to be the guy at the bar being like, can you get college hockey in here?
Yeah.
Down in Florida.
It's like, buddy, we don't even put the NHL on these teams.
It's like that they play hockey in college? What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah. All right. Well, everybody, thank you all very much for listening. Stay warm this weekend. Hopefully this cold spell I know it's the winter in New England. I'm not surprised. Lived here my whole life, but there are winters that are colder than others. And I think we've been in a bit of a extreme cold spell. Right now, it feels like it's not -5 outside, according to
it's
AccuWeather.
so windy. I've been sitting here looking out my window, and it's like there's been a snow tornado going on for the entire hour because of how windy it is outside. Everything's just whipping around. So I'm not looking forward to going out there later.
Gotta get my iced coffee. That's where I gotta go right now.
No,
still, yeah, iced coffee every day. That's
iced coffee year round. Keeps your internal temperature regulated. So, everybody, again, thanks for listening. Stay warm. Enjoy Bruins Lightning on Sunday, and we'll be back on Monday to talk to you all. Take care. Hey guys, thanks for watching the Skate Podcast. If you want to see more of our videos, visit our playlist.
Not in front of a screen. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment.